Important life update. I got a perm and I literally just got home from the hairdressers 5 minutes ago, and I thought I would use this probably rare good hair day for the next 3 months to film an introduction to this video, which is going to be a kind of mini hallway makeover, spruce up, working on it in an ongoing way where I know that it's not going to be finished in this video, but we are going to do quite a few different projects. Really all I'm going to do today is just give you a quick show of what we're working with at the moment. There are a lot of hallways in this flat, and one of the spaces that I've been teasing working on for quite a few videos now is my downstairs hallway, which is one of the spaces in the flat that needs the most doing to it. And I've been avoiding it partly because A, I'm not fully sure on what I want to do yet, and B, it is cold as hell down there. There's no radiators or anything down there, so it's really not an ideal place to be working in February. And while I'm not going to be doing that part of the hallway in this video, I am working my way closer to it by doing this bit of hallway here. You can see here we've got like a T-shaped floor space and then multiple doors going into different rooms. That's my living room, toilet, art room, bedroom, cupboard. I'm not going to be doing anything to in this video, but just so you know, it's like a utility cupboard. I painted the side of the cupboard with a blackboard paint quite a while ago now, maybe a couple of years, but I haven't actually ever written on it. I don't know why. I also put up this heavy duty hook there, which is a place that I keep one of my 2 ladders, and that works really well, I think. Those things have like spare duvets and pillows in for when someone comes to stay. I don't really love them being up there, but it's kind of a good place for them. I've got this 1970s plastic lamp, which I got from eBay actually probably about 5 years ago, and I really love it. It does mean that the light in this hallway is kind of greeny toned, but I don't hate that for it. If you watched my flat tour video, which I put out last year, you might remember that in this little bit of hallway, there used to be a coat rack, which was covered in all of my coats, surprisingly. And that's lived here for over a year now, and I've always known that it's an awful place for it. And it made this bit of hallway really hard to use. And then when I was doing my TV makeover, and I made the big paper mache shelving thing, I was carrying it in between the art room and the bedroom, and I accidentally knocked the coat rack over, and it fell fully over and ended up in a big pile of all my coats on the floor. So I took that as a sign that it needed to go ASAP. So I took it down and I replaced it with hooks everywhere. We've got one on the living room door, on the toilet door, on the art room door, and then this long kind of tree-shaped IKEA hook on the cupboard door. And at the moment, these hooks are working really hard holding all of my coats, and it's much better, to the point that I don't know why I didn't do that earlier on, but there you go. Eventually I am going to be putting hooks up in my downstairs hallway so that a lot of these coats can actually live down there, but for now this is a great temporary solution. It's much nicer not having this blocked, because now it feels like a nice little Juliet balcony, and there's more room up here to spin. The bedroom door is the only door that I didn't put a hook on in this hallway, and that is for a specific reason, which you will find out in this video. I've already painted all of the doors pink, and I really like those. I painted all of the walls white when I got the whole hallway painted, and I did have art above all of these doors at one point or another, and it has since all fallen down, which is really annoying and also strange because all of the art on that side of the hallway hasn't fallen down. So why this side is stricken with that issue, I don't know. But it has given me a lovely blank canvas to work on today. So a lot of what I'm going to be doing, if not all of what I'm going to be doing, is wall-based things. Like most of the rooms in the flat, the floors in here have been sanded and painted, hello Sunday, with white chalk paint. And while the finish isn't great after a couple of years of application, it could do with a fresh coat, we are not doing that in this video. The light's going now, and I don't know how well I managed to show you through this space because my brain is a little bit scattered. I think the perm has overstimulated me and I'm struggling to find my words. But this is really just the intro to the video, so I don't need to worry too much. And I will endeavour to explain things more thoroughly in the next clip as we talk about my plans for this space. Design time! So I started out planning this space as I usually do on Illustrator, and I made this little flat lay showing the 3 walls that we're going to be working on in this video. As is probably standard for a hallway, this space is very door heavy, but we've still got a good amount of vertical space above the doors to play around with. I like the idea of this hallway being a bit scrapbooky or almost like a tattooed sleeve, in that I can just keep adding bits to it over time as I find different things that please me. Obviously I've already got the beginnings of a gallery wall going on over the stairs, which I had to be very, very careful when hanging because much like my living room, the walls in the hallway are dodgy as hell. So I had to keep that in mind when I was planning what I was going to put on the walls in here. Nothing heavy, nothing smashable. The first thing I know I want to do is paint a mural above the living room door in a similar style to the one that I did in my art room. That is just a block of colour with block text on top of it. And this is what I'm going to be writing on there. Next up, because you know there has to be at least one paper mache project per makeover on this channel, I want to try and make this big squiggly line installation thing, which I'm thinking I'll be able to screw into the tops of the wooden door frames. Hoping will be strong enough to hold a couple of pieces of art, which I have here, if I also prop those up on top of the door frame. I want to attach a curtain pole to my bedroom door frame because I bought a beautiful 1920s chenille door curtain on eBay and it simply must get used in this space. I also ordered this sticker on eBay recently, which I really enjoy, so I'm going to whack that on the door too, and also add a curtain tie back to the side of the frame. Next, I want to add something to the top of my cupboard to hide those ugly storage boxes, and the conclusion I've come to is that it should be a folding screen made from cardboard and felt, which will hopefully look something like this. I also want to find or make a tiny piece of art that I can prop up on the light switch, and to fill in those last couple of big gaps on the walls, I decided that what I really needed slash wanted were some wall decals, because I love wall decals, and I decided to take you along for the ride of me shopping for those. So let's rewind a couple of days pre-perm to see me doing that now. So we're going to be doing some wall decal shopping today, and I'm really excited because I really enjoy looking at wall decals. They're often very, very funny. So we'll start off with a classic: live well, laugh often, love much, which I don't know if that's grammatically very correct, but we've obviously done the live, laugh, love thing before on the tie backs here in my bedroom, so I don't want to overdo it as much as I would like to plaster live, laugh, love around the flat. I think not right now for another one of those. Don't know why this one's so expensive, but it says eat diamond singular for breakfast and sparkle all day. Kind of love it, but we're not gonna go for that one. Trust me, you can dance. If I was gonna put this up on my wall, I would not put the prosecco bit up and just have the trust me you can dance, because those are motivational words. Speaking of motivational words, we've got I am going to succeed because I'm crazy enough to think I can. That's got some of the classic kind of cursive writing in it. We love the squiggle off the I can, and these little chevrons just for a 2014 touch. These aren't ones I'm going to buy, we're just looking at the moment. Forever a family. Last name. If I was going to buy that, I would just have it exactly as is, no changes. This one I am very tempted by, but I'm trying my best to not shop on Amazon ever again. They've got it set up in a gym kind of setting, which I suppose makes sense because it says pain is temporary, quitting lasts forever. And I thought it would be really funny to get this and rejig it so that it says pain lasts forever, full stop, quit, full stop, but I'm not going to do that, just giving it an honourable mention. I don't hate the hour values on its own. I feel like that could be interesting somewhere. Keep that one noted. I think that this could either look really good or really lame, depending. If there was a way that you could order like bespoke numbers on this one, maybe you could have it as your phone number. That could be kind of interesting, but not for me. The rainbow fish is kind of sassy. That is quite tattooy. Like that could be kind of fun in the hallway. He's cute. Would I want him on my wall? No, but he looks affable. A huge teapot on the wall could be interesting, but I don't know if I like this one. Now we move on to like the classic florals and things. And these are, I think, really nice. This hydrangea is really beautiful. I love the colours in it and the detail looks good. That kind of plonked on a wall somewhere I think would be really pretty. Also got some roses. This one I like that it's very straight and straight on. And that one's kind of cute and poppy as well. I am tempted by a floral. I think flowers are kind of a neutral in terms of design. This is also interesting if you had even like a little photo or something on the wall in the center of this and then the frame around it. That could be kind of cool. And I also like this deconstructed tulip garden. I know that they've laid it out like that because that's how it comes in the sticker set and you're supposed to rearrange them. But that's kind of an interesting composition. Same thing with this orange fruit wall sticker set. I like the rows of things, and you could have different things in different areas of the flat, just a row of leaves in one room. Tempted by this one for the possibilities. This website does have quite a lot of like giant fruits and vegetables. Giant apple, which is styled quite nice there, which is rare for these kinds of websites. Strawberry, cherries are kind of fun. The cupcake's probably a little bit too cutesy for me, but I could also see a way where you could style this really cute. And I like the asparagus because it's just not a vegetable you see represented in art nearly enough. And I love the way that that is laid out, just a kitchen, nothing anywhere except for a giant picture of asparagus on the wall. That's bold design. Now I think we may have found a winner in this giant picture of a pike. I don't know why I'm drawn to it so much, but I really am. That I think would be fun above the doors of my art room and bedroom if I could get one that's big enough. I need to get my measuring tape out in a minute. It could kind of be paying homage to Billy Bass, which was a staple of 90s home decor. I think the rose or something like that is the safe option, and the pike may be the correct option. Okay, I've got one definite. And now the other place where I kind of want something is for the bit of wall above my toilet door. This website has a huge variety of these 3D wall stickers that are supposed to look like windows looking out at various things. I do like the idea of that bit of wall above the toilet having a fake window in it, even if it's a window that looks really fake. Maybe the more fake it looks, the more fun I find it. I don't hate the tropical beach. They do have some really funny ones, like this one. Window straight out onto an iceberg with just like a simple modern chair and a brown rug in front of it. Sometimes I want to buy things just for the silliness factor of them. The Twilight Unicorn 3D window wall sticker is also a huge success. Looks really evil. The seal pups are adorable, and I like the icy tones in this image, but I really hate this porthole window with the silver. I want just a classic window shape. Okay, so I think we have a winner, and it is the Dandelion Rainbow 3D window wall sticker, which is just a window opening up onto a very close-up shot of a very large dandelion. And I am really drawn to this. I know that it's awful, but that's part of it. I think that might be the one. So then I would be getting that and that. That is a weird selection of things. I am tempted to get more, but I really don't want to overdo it. So I'm going to do some measuring, and then I'll check out all my pike and my dandelion rainbow, and I will see you again in the future once they have arrived. Back to present day. And I actually don't yet have my wall decals, they're still in the post. But we do have here a completed design, and I actually really like it all together. It's kind of giving too many tabs open on your browser. You need to clear your cookies. And now that most of the initial decisions have been made, we can get going on clearing out the few bits and bobs that I do have in this space and giving it a quick clean and a much needed dust. Speaking of dusting, check out this little cloth that I made with the help of today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Now, I'm very much a beginner knitter, and the only things that I have been able to make have been thanks to the diligent rewinding and rewatching of video tutorials and classes, of which Skillshare has many. In case you don't already know, Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, with thousands of classes led by industry experts across a huge variety of creative industries and practices, from video editing to interior design, to sewing, and even paper mache, guys. To make my knitted cloth, or my beige flannel if you will, I followed this set of classes by knit and crochet designer Isabella Gibet. In less than an hour, Isabella explains the process of creating these beautiful knitted dishcloths and tea towels. You can see I made a few mistakes along the way with this one. Learning a new skill is all about practicing, making mistakes, and slowly but surely improving. So if you're a creative and you're looking to enhance an existing skill or learn a new one, tap into Skillshare's huge array of resources and give it a go. You can do that by following the link in this video description. The first 500 people to use my link will receive a free 1-month trial of Skillshare. So get started today, and thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Today I am here with my curtain pole, and I'm going to attempt to tick quite a few little bitty things off my list today. The first of which being installing this curtain pole on my bedroom door frame. And as I suspected when I ordered this, the fittings that came with this, while very nice, are not going to work in this space because this bit is too long, so the curtain's going to be jutting out way too far in front of the door frame. Ideally it would be good if it went up on the wall above the door frame, but as I've explained, the walls are dodgy, so I don't want to do that. I will keep the original fittings though for future use. I've instead had to come up with a different solution for getting this up on the door frame. So this morning I went to the hardware shop and I bought some of these biggish gold hoops, which obviously can screw straight into the wood and will mean that the curtain's not hanging out too far. Now they do fit on this pole, but it is a real squeeze, so it's going to be a bit of a pain to get it up there, but at least I know once it is up it's not going to be falling out of the hooks, and that will work quite well. First thing I need to do though before I do any of this is cut this pole down to length, because at present it's a little bit too wide for the door. I was wondering if I could keep it this size and have it hanging over the sides quite a bit, but I think the length of it just looks a bit awkward, so I need to hack a bit of it off, which I'll do with my handsaw. I think that's a relatively easy job. A clean cut. Best believe I'm going to keep this little wooden thing and use it for something in the future. Let's just hope that now this is the correct length for the door. Find out. Yeah. I drilled another hole into the end of it, which I will need when I attach my finials at the end. I was going to go ahead and get this up on the door frame, but then I realised that I need to put the curtain onto it before the point that it goes up because of the way that I'm hanging the curtain. Now, as I showed earlier, the curtain that's going up is this vintage chenille floral green curtain, and I want to start by saying that I love this. I've been watching these chenille curtains on eBay for months and months, but not quite finding the right one at the right price point. Most of the ones I've seen are warm toned kind of colours, red or like a rich pink or an orange. That was kind of what I was picturing initially, and then I was on eBay a couple of weeks ago and I saw this one come up in this beautiful shade of green, and I have quite a lot of green going on in my bedroom with the big painting and stuff in there. So as soon as I saw this, I knew it was the one. This was going on auction, so I had to watch it and set an alarm for it ending, and I did end up paying a fair amount for it. It was 40 something pounds, which is a lot for a single curtain, but this is 100 years old and so pretty, so I'm very excited about this. It has some curtain tape sewed on the back of it, so my original idea was just to get some rings and feed it through this and onto this pole, but the biggest rings I could find in the hardware shop were these ones, which based on my measurements were going to fit, but based on reality they don't, so they're not going to work. Then I was looking through my personal stocks of hardware. I found some leftover shower curtain rings and I thought that might work well because it will glide nicely over the pole, but when I tried them on, it makes the fabric hang down way too far considering this is going on the door frame and not above it. I want it kind of up close to the pole, so I decided I'm going to have to go for a DIY method and basically make some little curtain tabs that I can put onto the pole, and I have this long length of a nice pink ribbon. So I'm literally just gonna make a load of little tabs and hand stitch those onto the back of my curtain tape here. I want them to be just about the right size for the pole so that it hangs more like this. I want to make sure that I'm not sewing through the actual chenille fabric at the front, just this canvasy thing at the back, because this is obviously an old curtain and it is a little bit threadbare in places, so I don't want to potentially damage it more by sewing into it. And this fabric's nice and thick, so I think it can take it. Sewing Drawing time. I was pretty annoyed about those curtain rings being too small. I actually think that this is going to end up looking cuter. It's obviously hand sewn, so it's not the neatest job, but it doesn't need to be on the inside. I think that that's going to look really nice. So let me hyper focus for a while and I'll show you how this is looking once all of our tabs are on. It legitimately took me like 2 hours to sew all of those on. Let's check that they're going to fit on the curtain pole, shall we? Because these are all hand sewn, if I ever want to take them off in the future, it will be pretty simple. Just a case of a little bit of unpicking. It's a smooth glide, all right. I'm happy with that. Now we just got to get it on the door frame, which I'm hoping isn't going to be too hard. So I'm just going to drill some holes either side of the top of my door frame to screw my little golden hooks into. That is 1 centimetre from the top, 1.8 centimetres from the side. Now I just need to add the finials. I should say the reason why I want the curtain on this door is because, as I'm sure you can imagine, this being a Victorian old high-ceilinged flat, it is a little bit drafty in the winter, and when I sleep I always keep the door open to my bedroom so that my cat can get in and out, and then I get all the drafts coming in from this hallway. So this, I hope, will make a bit of a difference to keep the warmth in the winter. I am honestly so pleased. It's turned out exactly as I wanted it to, and it's now the perfect little entrance through to my messy bedroom. I can have that closed at night and Sunday can still slip out of the cracks. You can see some of the bits where it's kind of moth-eaten and worn through, and those don't bother me at all. I think when you're buying old items, you have to accept that they're going to come with a certain level of oldness to them. I think the green and the wood just look really beautiful, and I am so very chuffed with myself. So now that's the most annoying thing on my list for today ticked off. I'm gonna smash through the rest of my to-dos, which are mainly just putting up other fixtures and doing a few little mends. First of which being a little fixture for the curtain tie back that's gonna go at the side of this door. That took embarrassingly long, but it's done. I've also got another black hook that I'm gonna put on the black side of my cupboard for a coat or something hanging at the top. Then I need to patch paint over a little bit of that blackboard as well, because there used to be a picture on there and I accidentally pulled it off at one point, and it pulled some of the paint off, so I'm going to go over that. I feel like a lot of my taste is quite light and bright colours, but I do always like to have at least a little bit of black in a space just to bring things down a little bit. There's too much pastel, I think, can look a bit juvenile. Not that that's a problem, looking juvenile is actually super fun. That'll do. I'm just going to quickly patch the walls. Okay, this handle. I put this on here myself because I liked the shape of it. And when I got it, I did indeed spray paint it green. But over time, especially when this hallway was super thin because of that rail, I've just been knocking into it with various things and chipping the paint off. I don't think I did a very good job sanding this before the first time I sprayed it. So we're gonna try that differently this time and give it a quick sand before I spray it. We'll see if it just chips again. To be honest, if it does, I don't really care. Look at the state of my nail varnish. I'm not one to judge. It's a new day and I remain so chuffed with my door curtain. I've got to say, sleeping with it closed last night felt so much cozier. I think it really adds a bit of softness and texture, which was missing in this hallway before, so still in love with that. And today I'm moving my attention on to the wall above my living room door, where I'm going to be painting this mural as per my plan. I don't yet have the paints for that. I actually ordered them last night, but though I can't start painting, I can get my design up on this wall so that once the paint arrives, I've already done the initial annoying bit. What I'm going to do, I think, is get a piece of paper or cardboard that's about the right size, cut it to shape, and then I can draw out my words sitting on the floor rather than on a ladder above my stairs. Lining paper. So now I'm going to draw out how I think I want the lettering onto this piece of paper. Then I'll trace it with tracing paper and trace it again onto the wall. And that will surely work. It's tricky to get all the spacing of the letters correct, which which is why it makes sense to do it on the floor. I'm not going for perfection in the font though. It's just kind of the same lettering that I do for most things. Property value. For the first rough go over, I think this is looking fine, and I will tidy it up as I trace it. Would have been great if I had some large sheets of tracing paper, but I don't. I only have A4, so we're doing a little bit of patchwork here. I think this will be worth it so that when I put it up on the wall, the spacing stays the same. Okay, yeah. Obviously, tracing paper works that you trace over it the right way around, then you trace it from behind, and then you trace it onto the surface. So I'm just going to be going over and over these letters multiple times until they've moved from this piece of paper to that bit of wall. It's another count in favour of the wall decal because that cuts out all of this nonsense. That's not to say I'm not enjoying myself though. I really do like tracing. The reason why I'm doing this specific thing is because this is a kind of sentiment that you see a lot online or that you hear from people. I think living under capitalism can make us view our homes not primarily as homes but as investments, and so people can get preoccupied with the market values of the places that they live, which is understandable. Like I said, that's capitalism for you, but that's not how I want to view this flat, even though it was a huge investment for me and I am banking on being able to sell it at some point in the future. And I'm sure when that time comes, some of the decorating that I've done in this flat will be off-putting to potential buyers. But I can't bring myself to give enough of a shit about that really. I could die tomorrow, and if I want some silly words on my walls, I'm gonna do it. So that's the initial trace done. Now I flip the whole thing over and trace over it on the back. The back side has been traced, and now I can stick it up on the wall and do my one last tracing to hopefully transfer our pencil marks onto the wall. If it doesn't work, that will be a lot of wasted time because that took forever. I realise I'm going to need my taller ladder for this. I'm also going to put proper shoes on other than slippers, so I'm not risking falling down off of this ladder. Safety is very important. I think that looks good though, or it will once it's painted. The final trace. You want to go over every line a few times to make sure that it's going to be sticking to the wall the other side. But my arms are going to ache by the end of this. This is so much more stressful than doing it on the floor, but we persevere. I cannot tell you how achy my arms are and how excited I am to finish this. Done. Also, look at the state of my hands. So let's wash these and then take that tracing paper down and see if it's worked. It's almost dusky outside now. This has taken literally hours. Let's hope it was worth it. Oh yeah. That actually turned out better than I imagined it would. And doing it that tracing paper method, while long, it will have made my life a lot easier later on in this process. So now this is all prepped and ready for paint once that arrives in the post. For now though, we can switch our attentions over to the wall opposite above my art room, where we're going to be doing that paper mache squiggle DIY, which I have actually already started a few days ago. So let's rewind a few days and get going on that project now. Today I'm going to get started on my paper mache project for this video, which is going to go up in between these two door frames, I think. I'm hoping this is going to be relatively easy to make. I don't see why it shouldn't be. First thing I'm going to do is use some of my heavy duty galvanized wire to make the basic curvy shape that I want. Maybe I don't need to stand on the ladder while I bend it. Okay, so I've done the initial bending and I don't even know if you can see that, but it's just a single bent wire. Let me see if I can illustrate how it will go. Does that look like anything? I think in order to proceed, I need to thicken it out. But now I've got the basic shape, I can do that on the floor in my art room in comfort. Move on through there now. The basic squiggle shape. I think I'll double the wire. I'm going to add little wire loops to the bottoms of each of the curves that will screw into the door frames. And I'm also going to thicken it up with some strips of cardboard and some masking tape. Even with one more layer of wire, it's a lot stronger. And I've started adding the little loops. I'm just doing this with a bit of thinner wire, looping it round at the point where it will touch the door frame. You just have to make sure it's got got one usable loop in it that you can pop a screw through later. I'm gonna try this out on the door frames again to check that I like the shape before I start adding the cardboard, because that will be the point where it will be a bit less bendable. I think I'm happy with that. Okay, cardboard time. So I've just cut some thin strips of this cardboard and I'm winding it round the wire, kind of as if it were like a piece of tape, because I think this is a good way to bulk out the shape and keep it all kind of neatly tied together at the same time. Obviously we're going to be going over this with paper mache, but I need to make sure that the frame is going to be strong enough to stay upright when it's on the wall. So I'm going to cover this whole thing and then we'll report back. It's holding its shape a lot more now, and obviously we'll do even more once it's been paper mache'd. I think I'm happy with this. Let's just try it out. I've decided if I want to do another layer of the cardboard to thicken it out a bit more before the paper mache. Do I want it chunkier than this? I think probably I want it a little bit chunkier, so I'm going to double up the cardboard, I reckon. Okay, it's about half an hour later and I've more or less run out of the time that I had available today, but I did another coat of the cardboard, wrapping it around, and now I think I like the chunkiness of this. The cardboard raveling technique was surprisingly effective and it gave actually a much smoother kind of finish of a curve than I was expecting. So I'm happy with that, and I will catch you tomorrow to get going on the paper mache. Okay, so today we can get started and I've got my big squiggle laid out in front of me all ready. Normally when I paper mache, I'll do one side at a time and obviously let the top side dry before I flip it over. But this is going to be a bit different because it's all curved. So I'm just going to wrap the paper all the way around it as I go, kind of in the same way I did with the card. And we're just going to be using PVA glue, newspaper and a bit of water. I've been adding the loo roll directly on top of the newspaper as I go, rather than doing it in two separate coats with dry time in between, which is how I would normally do it. And I'm trying it this way for time saving reasons, to be honest. I don't want this project to drag on for weeks, so the more coats I can get done in one sitting, the better. I've always liked kind of abstract, blobby, curvy lines, but when I was planning this project, I did wonder whether the squiggle on the wall thing had been a little bit overdone in interior design over the last few years. Then I realised that's just stupid. Just because something's trendy doesn't mean that you have to not like it, in the same way that it doesn't mean that you have to like it. I would advise against following trends too closely or consistently buying loads of new things to fit new trends. If there's something that you see come up on Pinterest or Instagram or wherever it is that you look at design and you like it, there's no reason why you can't incorporate some trendy kind of elements in your home. Hopefully it's something I'll keep even in future homes when people hate the squiggly wall thing. It's been about an hour and a half and I am done with my paper mache for today. I did about 2 coats with the newspaper and then a coat of the loo roll on top. Now I'm going to leave this to dry overnight and then I will have another coat to do tomorrow. The paper's dried enough for me to do another coat. It's not fully dry, but for the sake of this project, I think I'll be fine putting on a coat now. You can see I ended up propping it up on these little dishes to avoid the sticking to board thing that I was worried about. And I've also got some paint brushes shoved through those little wire hoops that I made for screws so that I don't lose them in the paper mache. Gonna do another coat on this today and then maybe even another coat in a couple of days time. Then I will come back to you once this is dry and ready to paint. My squiggle is dry. Oopsie. And it looks much as you would expect. It's come out pretty sturdy and it keeps its shape now when it's held up. And now it's ready to be painted. Before I do that, I do just want to check how it looks up on the door frames to make sure that it's correct. So it's going to be something like this. That looks pretty good. I think it actually fills the space really nicely. And I am wondering now whether I'm going to want to put the art behind it or if it's better just left on its own. But we can figure that out when we get to the styling stages. I'll try it both ways. Repaint colour. In the plan, I put this as being black because, to be honest, I couldn't think what other colour to put it as. Now I'm thinking we've already got a good amount of black in the space with this wall opposite already being painted black. The other option I'm I'm considering is to use this paint, which I have left over from my TV area makeover. I can always repaint it in the future. But yes, first up, I need to give it a quick little sand. Yoink. The things you can do with paper and glue, eh? These little pastry dishes have come in very handy for this project. As per usual, I'm using a fan brush. I feel like whenever I'm painting my paper mache things with one of these brushes, I get at least one comment telling me that I should use a bigger brush for it to go quicker, which I don't disagree with. That does make sense. I just like using these brushes and I like the painting part of the process, so I'm not necessarily looking to rush it. The paper mache is also quite a textured surface, so I find it good to have a smaller brush just to be able to get into all of those nooks and crannies. So that's my PSA on that. And I think that this colour will work. There is already quite a lot of colour in this hallway, but it's not like I'm trying to do a minimal kind of look in here. It's the next day, and the last step for this project is of course a sealing coat of my favourite, Mod Podge. I always use this as the final coat on my paper mache because I think it gives a nicer finish than just regular PVA. This is a very quick and easy step. And once this is done, it will be ready to install. So while I do this, I think for the sake of this video, let's pick up where we left off with my wall mural. My paint samples have arrived. So today we can go ahead and start painting this mural. These are the two colours that I got and they were just from Dunelm. It's a bit annoying to me that now lots of paint companies will give you like a peel-on swatch rather than a little tin of paint, which makes it difficult when you want to buy little tins of paint for little projects. I've been avoiding doing this paint job a little bit because I know it's going to mean quite an excessive amount of time up on my really tall ladder with my arm up, so it's going to be a bit of an achy job, but we're going to push through. I'm going to get started on the lettering first with this pink paint. Ooh, it's kind of lilac-y toned pink, which was why I picked it, and I think that colour looks really nice. I'm going to use quite a small paintbrush to put it on the wall. I think I'll go for this one because it's going to give me a lot more control, obviously, than a bigger paintbrush will do for doing lots of fiddly little bits. So let me put my trainers back on and we can get cracking. It goes on nicely. If I can get away with only doing one coat on this, I'm going to be really happy because I don't think I want to do this twice. I don't know how long it's been to do this bit. At least 20 minutes so far. I think it's looking alright though. I think I did a decent job on the lettering. It's not too messy at all. I'm going to leave this to dry for a few hours though before I try and do the blue because I don't want any of this to be wet as I'm going around these letters. It's a few hours later and it is time to do the blue. You can see I've taped off the edges of this because I want them to be relatively straight, and we're just going to go in and carefully fill in all of this white space with our blue paint, which looks like this. I think it's a nice colour, so hopefully it will look good. The blue bit's taking even longer than the pink bit. It's very, very fiddly and I have messed up a few times, so I'm gonna have to do a little touch up of the pink in areas tomorrow. I really love this shade of blue though. I was originally picturing more of like a bright cobalt, but this I think is better. I'm hoping I can get this finished before the sun sets today, but it's already mid-afternoon, so time is ticking. But I'm thinking while I carry on with this, maybe we should switch our attention over to the next project on my list, which is this folding screen thing that I put on my plan that's going at the top of this here cupboard because I really want to hide those ugly storage boxes. And my plan for this one mostly came because I was scrolling eBay as I do, and I came across some old sets of fuzzy felt, and then I was thinking a lot about fuzzy felt and how actually it was a really great way to make little pictures. And so I've been waiting for a reason to use this felt on felt picture idea for something, and I thought this project was a perfect option because hopefully this is going to be quite a quick DIY. white. So I've already started by cutting a piece of cardboard to the right size to fit up there. Luckily I had a big box that I could hack down, so it's all in one piece and it's just folded around where those boxes are. And it's obviously given me two faces that I can now make pretty. So I'm literally just going to use the cardboard as the base and then cover it in some felt, which I purchased from eBay. I'm hoping I've got enough. I got 2 meters of white felt and 1 meter of black. I thought going monochromatic would be a good way to save money on this, so I wasn't having to buy loads of different colors. And I think it's going to be a white background with a black design on it. We definitely have more than enough felt. Just trimming off the excess before I give it a quick iron. I'm going to cover the whole back as well since I have more than enough fabric, and I think it will just last better if it's fully covered. And now I can get started on the actual design, for which I am going to be using my printer, which I use quite rarely, but I do want the font and the picture on this to come out the way that I want it. So printing out a template I think makes sense. And I'm not worried about wasting paper because it'll get added to the paper mache pile and it'll all get used eventually. The eyes that I put on the plan for this are ones that I found when I was just looking for examples of cartoon eyes on Google, and I really liked these ones. This isn't a drawing style that I myself do, so all credit to the person who made this stock picture of eyes. I really like them and I want to use them in this project, so I'm going to print them out over a few sheets of A4 and then use that as a template to trace around for my felt. And I'm also going to print out the words for the side, which I've decided are going to be in Times New Roman, because every now and then I really enjoy a little bit of Times New Roman, don't we all? I had to lay out a sheet so that the felt wouldn't pick up all of my rug fluff and embarrass me on camera. I thought this was a good picture to use because even though it is just literally pure black, pure white, it has a good amount of detail in it that makes it a bit more interesting than if I just did a really simple eye, but also easier than if I did a really complicated one. It's a nice middle ground. I need to make sure I'm marking off where the fold of this is going to be because I keep forgetting. And the mark is on the cardboard, so let me check. The fold is there. Pins are useful. I'm going to pin that all the way through the cardboard. Mark where the fold is. So then that means this whole thing is actually this way around. I've actually just decided that this shorter side panel should be black to match the black side of the cupboard there so it flows up seamlessly. This was actually my original plan, but then when I was drawing out the sketch, I changed my mind and made it all white because I thought it looked better. But now I'm seeing the materials in person, I actually think that this is going to look better. I'm going to keep the white backing on this bit though, just so we've got one seamless underside, and then I'll sew a black panel on top of it. Giving desk cubicle divider at the moment, and it's kind of giving me unpleasant flashbacks to the worst job that I've ever had, which was in marketing, if you were interested. And I've got to say, the list of the worst jobs I've ever had is long and varied, so for that one to win is kind of a feat. That's our basic shape. Now we can start cutting out our felt templates. The white felt is proving easy because I can just trace straight through it. It should work like fuzzy felt and stay up while I'm stitching it, which is convenient. When I do the next word, I'm not going to draw it out in such a wasteful way, and I'll try and fill in some of the gaps of this scrap piece. I think I got overexcited and didn't think through exactly what it was I was doing. That's all of my letters cut out, and hopefully it looks less like an office cubicle now. I think I'm going to get my eye pieces cut out next and then do all of the sewing at the same time. But so far I'm pleased with this. It's going to look better than those storage boxes anyway. The black felt is slightly more tricky. I'm going to have to pin the paper to the felt and then cut both at once to get the right shape and then reassemble. Hopefully that will work. I want to try and do it in a fabric saving way as much as possible. First eye cut out. Cutting out all these pieces is definitely time consuming, but seeing it come together, I actually think it's going to be really worth it. My fuzzy felt dreams are coming true. And die number 2. They need to be placed slightly differently, but that's basically exactly what I wanted. Not a bad job, I would say. Not a bad job at all. That did take a long time though, so we'll see how quickly I can do the sewing portion of this DIY. I think I'll start by stitching on the letters, and I'm just going to be hand stitching with a little bit of matching thread and getting them all nice and secure. The wonders of fuzzy felt. I'm doing relatively messy stitching because I don't think it matters all that much, but the sun is going to be setting shortly and I think you've got a good idea of what it is that I'm doing here. So I'm going to do the rest of the stitching off camera and then I'll show you how this looks when it's done. And here it is all finished. This did take quite a while to do because I had to individually stitch around all of these pieces of felt. The ones that I did first, the don't, is undoubtedly the most messy bit, which is always the way with my projects because I don't tend to test things out before I get going on the real thing. So the test is usually just the first bit that I do. It does annoy me that the O and the N are a little bit wonkier than the rest of the letters, and I did consider unstitching and restitching them, and then I decided not to. Being a little bit dodgy in places is all part of the story of that item. All in all, I think this came out really well. Even though it was a little bit time consuming, this is definitely an easy DIY. I'm going to put this to one side until we are ready to put all of the things back in the space, and now we can move on to the final little project for this video. Let's talk about the mini piece of art that I mentioned that I want balancing on the top of the light switch. In my head, this is just quite a simple little painting in a nice little boxed in wooden frame, and I have been keeping my eyes peeled at the charity shop to see if I happen to stumble across that exact thing in the correct tiny scale, but alas I have not. So I've come to the conclusion that I just need to make one myself, and I was looking around my art room for something to paint onto. Essentially, I don't just want this to be on a piece of paper, and I realised that I've got quite a few of these little scrappy bits of MDF, so I just drew out the size that I wanted onto one of these, cut it out with the old hand saw, and it's currently in the process of being primed with some MDF primer. Then for the wooden frame, I have this dish drainer that my boyfriend bought on Wayfair for his flat a couple of years ago and didn't use it because it really is a piece of shit that will go mouldy in 2 minutes. And I said, I'll have it, because I thought at some point these little bits of wood might come in handy. And as it turns out, they haven't for the last 2 years until today. I just spent like 10 minutes tweezing out one of these. The staples are actually surprisingly strong. As you'll see, this is the perfect length for my little board here with a bit of overflow, and I'm thinking I can make a nice little boxy frame if I just yank a couple more of these off of here and then stick them all together onto this. This is about the extent of my woodworking ability, and as you can see, it's pretty rickety, but honestly, it does not matter. That looks okay. I'll let this dry overnight before I do anything else, so I'll see you tomorrow. Our little frame is dry, and it's more than sturdy enough for what it needs to be. You might be wondering why I've done it like this, so that it sits on top of the board rather than boxing in the sides. And that's just because I wanted the frame to stick out quite a bit at the front, so it looks a little bit like the mirror that I've got in my living room. It actually would have been really cute to make this into a tiny mirror, but I'm not about to try and cut some glass in this video, so we're going to proceed with the painting plan. But first up, I want to seal in this frame. I really like the colour that it's gone where the super glue went in at the joins. I checked my stocks and I actually don't have any wood stain, so I figured glue is as good as anything, and I'm just going to coat the front of this in a bit of PVA so that it will hopefully have more of like a mid-toned tiki kind of finish. Before glue, after glue. It's a few days later and it turns out that once the PVA is dry, it goes back to the exact same colour that it was before. So to get that more orangey browny tone on this, I'm just going to stain it with a thin mix of some acrylic paint. I don't want to cover up the wood grain, I just want to darken it ever so slightly. Now my frame is drying, I can start on the actual painting, and I can't say I'm going to take much care wear when doing this. I want it to be quite rough and ready, childish, slapdash, chunky paint, picture of a flower. And I'm going to try and do it as freely and unthinkingly as possible and just see how it turns out. It's funny how you can spend ages trying to do a good painting and then you just paint over it all with a big brush and you like it better. I like the colours, I like the thickness of paint, and I think it will look good once it's framed. It's all about the journey. I still don't love it, but I think it's fine and I think it will look good in the space. So I'll leave this to dry, and then once it is dry we can attach our little frame, and that'll be that project ticked off the list. Now all of my projects are done, I can move my attention onto all of the finishing jobs, starting off with pulling the masking tape down from my wall mural. Not bad at all. I'm really happy with that. That was a pretty smooth peel and we don't have anything that we need to patch up, which is excellent news for me. And now we can move on to something that I've been half really excited about, half slightly anxious about, which is of course installing my wall decals. Because since they arrived last week, they've just been in their tube and I haven't even opened them yet, which is very exciting slash a bit nerve-wracking. I've never ordered from this company before, so I don't know what the quality is going to be like, whether these are going to look good or really rubbish. Oh, there's the fish. Oh my gosh, it's huge. Wow, that is a very big picture of a fish. I am slightly worried about my ability to install these well. It's come with notes, that is useful. Ooh, this one looks so nice. It's still got the backing on it, but okay, I'm going to read up on how to install these and then I'll come back to you. It looks theoretically simple. First thing I need to do is give the wall a dust and then stick down the corners of the stickers with some masking tape. So this is very rolled up. Maybe I should have unrolled it last week, but I didn't. It said you have to make an anchor point in the middle of the decal with one strip of masking tape and then you stick it on one side at a time. It says you can use like a squeegee or a credit card. So I shall be using a very old scratched up Superdrug beauty card, and I'm going to try and do the sticking portion of this now, which is the bit I'm concerned about. Okay, that seems pretty firmly stuck, and now apparently I just peel this. Okay, so far the peeling is proving stressful. It does kind of want to lift up at the edges as I pull this backing bit off. This is making me really stressed about the fish. I'm going to do the rest of this off camera because I think I need to do it slow and steady, but I'll show you how it looks once it's done. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I hated doing that. That was so stressful. And I do have some bits of masking tape at each corner at the moment because I couldn't help the corners just lifting up when I pulled the backing off. There seemed to be no way around it, but despite the problems, I do love it. It looks just as silly as I'd hoped. The colours are really vivid and I think it works really well with my mural as well. The fish is currently in the living room being pinned down by some books because it is so much bigger and I think that this will be beneficial. It also makes sense to me to install the squiggle before I put the fish up because the placement of this is going to dictate the placement of the fish. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out the spots where I need to make 3 holes on the tops of my door frames, and then we can hopefully get this screwed into place. Fingers crossed it's going to be easy. It's up and it is not falling forwards. Now I think the only last thing I can do today is put my green cupboard handle back up, which looks much better than it did before, I'm sure you will agree. And then we just got to wait till tomorrow to do all of the finishing up, put the final things in the space and do the big reveal. It's the last day of this makeover and I've got all of my last finishing off bits ready to be put into the space. First things first though, we've got to get that fish on the wall. Thankfully a day later the dandelion is still holding strong, so I feel confident enough to proceed now with the fish. It has been being pressed overnight and I found another use for my weighted blanket, so hopefully this isn't going to curl up now. Yeah, look at that. nice and flat. I should have done that with both of them, but you live and you learn. This is the first time I've ever put wall decals up. So I'll start by roughly taping it up on the wall, I guess. I think this is probably going to be the most Marmite thing of the video. I'm sure plenty of you watching would not have this in your own home, which I respect. But I'm very excited to have them in mine. So let's get them up on the wall. This might take a bit of trial and error to get the placement right. Okay. I love it so much already. Also, I should say, it says in the instructions for these that you want the room to be heated to at least 19 degrees in order to apply them. And while I did have my heating on yesterday, because this is obviously a big drafty space, I don't know whether it was specifically 19 degrees in this hallway. So I was wondering whether that was why that didn't adhere properly. So I've got the heating on full whack today, and I'm actually bloody boiling. Still wearing knitwear, but it's sleeveless today. Okay, the fish is up and I love them. Now I just need to peel off this backing bit, which yesterday proved to be the difficult part of this process. But like I said, I've made it hot as a furnace in here, and I also left it stuck on for about 10 minutes before I'm peeling the back off, which is a lot longer than yesterday as well. So fingers crossed this is going to be an easy procedure. It's got such a nice face. I've had this card since about 2011 and I never signed it. They still give me those points though. No, go for it. It's up, and I was hoping to be able to say that was actually really easy this time after all of those lessons I learnt yesterday. That would be a lie because it was actually quite annoying and some of the fins kept peeling up as I was sticking it down and I was getting a bit stressed and my arms were aching. But all's well that ends well. And now I have a giant fish on my wall and I couldn't be happier. Now one final decal. I'm putting this guy on my bedroom door, and this is a decision that I don't know if I feel strongly about either way. Whether it's a good idea, whether it's a bad idea. I think it's a neutral idea and I like the red against the pink, so we're gonna do it. And after all that fuss with my fish and my dandelion, I now feel completely qualified to put this one on my door. I'm thinking about face height in the middle there. Love it. And now with that done, that was the last of the things to make and install. And now all I have to do is bring in the last few styling bits into this space. And we'll start off with our felty folding screen, which is going up on the top of the cupboard. And I haven't actually tested this out up there since it was plain cardboard, so I'm quite excited to see how it looks. Next up, we've got the mini painting, which is going on my light switch. Since the last time you saw this, I have painted a little smiley flower head on there because I just felt like it needed a pop of something. Very cute. The wood frame kind of ties back into the wooden curtain pole, which I like. Now the squiggles had time to settle in with its surrounding objects, I have decided I'm going to go ahead with my plan of propping up some art behind it on the top of the door frame. Obviously this is only propped up, so I can always easily take it down if I don't like it. But I do think I want to commit to the more is more thing in this hallway. The squiggle works perfectly to keep the art up. I've got this amazing 1980s spray painting by Tony Weir. I need to frame it at some point, but for now it's just going to live up here unframed. I think it perfectly matches the vibe of this hallway. I like it. I also bought a curtain tie back from a charity shop for the bargain price of £1, and that's going to go up with my door curtain on the bedroom. I always love blue and green together, so I think that that will be perfect here when the door's open in the daytime. I can hang my ladder back up on its hook. And then I'm just going to bring in a few choice coats and bags and things for styling. Look at this amazing 1970s varsity jacket. When you wear it out, the chances of an old drunk man screaming Anita at you are high. But I think it's beautiful and it's going to live up there. Obviously, once I stop filming, I'll be bringing all of my coats and covering these hooks again. But I think I can get away with doing the reveal with only a few because I know eventually, once I've got hooks downstairs, this is how it will look. So now that's everything done and we are ready for the final reveal. But first, let's take a quick trip down memory lane to remember what this hallway looked like when I first moved into this flat, what this hallway looked like before I started this makeover, and then finally, what this hallway looks like now. Final thoughts. I am so very pleased with this space. I think it feels fun and welcoming and full of colour, which matches what I've been trying to do in this hallway as a whole. As I said at the start of this video, this is more of an ongoing project potentially, and I think I will be adding things to these walls in the future. But for now, I'm really happy with what I've managed to achieve in the last few weeks. Of everything new in this space, I have to say my favourite thing is probably the curtain. I just love it so much, and I think it makes a lot of the sillier elements in this space feel more grounded and homey. I don't know if that's me just talking out of my ass, but I really love this. Of the things that I made for this video, I would say the standout for me is probably the folding screen at the top of that cupboard. And I do want to give credit once again to the person who drew those eyes originally, because they're traced. I'm also super happy with my wall decals. I think they look exactly as I wanted them to, even though they were a bit of a pig to get up on the wall. They do bring a certain something to the space. I still have more to do in this space. I don't know whether you've clocked my banister at any point in this video and the fact that it's covered in bits of paint. That's actually something I would like some advice on. If any of you have an idea for how I can refinish this banister in a way that's feasible for me to do it, please do leave me a comment and let me know, because that is something that I need to do before I can paint the stairs. What else do I need to say? I always find these closing sum-ups hard to film, because by this point in the project my brain is so frazzled and it's been everywhere, and now I think I'm ready to release and let it go. So let's end it there. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to my channel and you enjoyed this video, please do consider subscribing or going back and watching some of my other makeover content. And if you are not new here and you're coming back, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I do want to say I'm really sorry that I've been a bit rubbish at replying to comments and things recently. I've gotten into a bit of a toxic relationship with the YouTube Studio app, so I've kind of taken a step back from looking at it for a time. But when I do log on and I see all of the lovely comments, it really is incredible to me. So thank you so much, and that's everything. Goodbye.